It's time to talk about action movies.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, that's right. What's up, everybody? I'm Brad.
And I'm Sean.
I am in Nashville, Tennessee tonight with my toys. I got Gollum over here protecting me from Sean tonight. And I'm drinking my favorite cup of coffee, which is cream, honey, and cinnamon. What about you?
Nice. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm in my office. I got my books, my movies. Baby Groot is finally back where he belongs. Drinking some hot tea. It's a little too late for coffee, and wanted to make sure that everybody knows that before we get started, smash that like button like Brad always says, and comment down below. Let us know what you think of today's video.
Alright, we're going to be kicking off a video series of 5 videos, and it's called The Last 10 Years. So we're going to be ranking our probably top 10s for most of these. Some genres might be a little bit less, but we're starting off tonight with our top 10 action movies from 2010 to 2019. And like Sean said, be sure to comment down below on whose list you think is better. But Sean's going to kick it off with some honorable mentions right off the bat.
First off, it's one that came back way back in the day. It's Chronicle. It's a found footage movie about 3 teenagers that get superpowers. I really had fun with this one. Next on my list is more recent. It's Baby Driver. I had a lot of fun with this movie. Super cool. I saw it in the theater, I think, with your wife and a few other people. She was visiting. And then lastly, I have one that's super under the radar, low budget, Upgrade. Came out, I think, last year. It's a great movie as far as action goes. So I got those out of the way. Brad, what do you got for me?
So my 3 honorable mentions are, this is so painful to not let these guys get on the list, but my first honorable mention is I am a sucker for old school action because I am old, and I have Olympus Has Fallen as one of my honorable mentions. I just love this movie. It's a total bloodbath, just classic 90s style action. And then, I can't even bear to say these next 2 out loud, but Dark Knight Rises in my honorable mentions. Flawed movie, but a ton of fun. And lastly, I wish I could have done 11 movies because The Avengers did not make the cut. That's my 3 honorable mentions. And now I'm going to roll straight into my number 10 action movie of the last 10 years. And it is Kick-Ass. This came out in 2010. It's an action comedy directed by Matthew Vaughn. It hit me in all the right ways. Man, this movie was so fun. It was a new and different take on the superhero genre, and it was not afraid to go there with child actors. It was mostly grounded in reality. Any of us could be Kick-Ass. What do you got for number 10?
I went with Fast 5. It came out a few years back, and this totally reinvigorated the Fast and Furious franchise. That was a racing franchise. Then it had a few mishaps in the middle. Didn't really know what was going on. This one went full action, brought in The Rock, and that was the best choice that they could have done because he definitely brought a ton of fun into this franchise. I'll forever remember going to the theater with this one and seeing them go through Brazil, Rio de Janeiro with the huge safe behind them. Had a lot of fun, and this is a great action movie. And on Rotten Tomatoes, it's got 77%.
I apologize, I forgot to say my Rotten Tomatoes score for Kick-Ass. It was 76.
The number 9. I don't know if this one's on your list. I don't think it will be. It's Kingsman Secret Service, the first one. This has 74% on Rotten Tomatoes. Man, this movie was so fun. Over-the-top plot, makes fun of those old James Bond movies, and Samuel L. Jackson was awesome in this role. It's just super fun, and I can't wait to see what they do, if they do anything better with it, but the first one was definitely the best one, and it was so fun and original.
Wow. An excellent choice. That made my master list. So for my number 9, I have Snowpiercer. This came out in 2013. It's an action drama fantasy. Chris Evans is in his most epic hotness in. I'll edit that out. Never mind. This movie is nuts, okay? I remember watching it alone with, I'm pretty sure, a massive plate of tacos. Just in one sitting, just knowing I was watching something that was well thought out, that would stand the test of time, especially since it is in the future. And this has a 95 on Rotten Tomatoes. So, which leads me into my number 8. This is where things get kind of sticky. Ooh, boy, this was tough. Number 8, John Wick. This movie came out in 2014, starring action god Keanu Reeves, whom I highly recommend that you hire to run your local pet store because he's clearly very passionate about animals. It's the most simple plot of all time, I think. This movie glorifies the headshot and pushes like video game stuff into reality, video game violence into reality. It's crazy as far as the action scenes. I watched this one alone in a theater, and it blew me away. And it's got an 86 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Gosh, man. I gotta say, Snowpiercer just didn't make my list. It was so close and so hard. Okay, but number 8, I've got X-Men Days of Future Past.
All right.
I know you have your issues with this movie, but man, the critics gave it 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I can't agree with them more. This is the ultimate crossover between the old X-Men that we had in the 2000s and the new ones that they brought in, the younger, fresh cast. And, ooh, this had just tons of great action, a great story, stakes were high, and I think it's Hugh Jackman at his best, besides Logan. Number 7, Average Minds Think Alike, because I got John Wick. Critics gave this 86%. I'm not going to take too much time since you pretty much said it all, but please do not murder John Wick's dog, or Keanu's dog, or the Baba Yaga, as they say. This is Keanu Reeves at his best since the first Matrix, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, for my number 7, the rest of this list is just a mashup of number 1s, really, in my opinion. But number 7 is Edge of Tomorrow. This is also 2014. This is one of my all-time favorite movies, actually, and one of the biggest surprises I've ever seen. I try to go and see every single Tom Cruise movie, so I saw this in the theater with my wife, and we had a freaking ball, okay? Emily Blunt sets herself up as a legit future action star, which we see later in Quiet Place and some other stuff. This movie is hilarious, okay? And clean enough for your 9-ish plus kids to watch, but with a little bit of plot explanation. Also, I refuse to call this movie Live, Die, Repeat. It's got a 90 on Rotten Tomatoes. Which now it means it's my turn to go into number 6, is Inception. This is the oldest movie on this list, I believe. It's from 2010, Christopher Nolan classic with Leonardo DiCaprio. This is the closest to not an action movie on my list, I feel. I actually watched this the other day, and it absolutely holds up. I thought I would have ranked it higher, but for an action movie, it does lack constant action. It has some slow parts, great parts, but they're slower, and that keeps it out of the top 5 for me. This is an action movie list, okay? This movie is essentially perfect. But it has an 87 on Rotten Tomatoes, and I just want you guys to post below if you believe that the spinning top fell over or stayed spinning after the screen cut to black.
So number 6, it's my first MCU entry into my list, and it's Captain America Winter Soldier. This has a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's definitely in my top 3 Marvel movies of all time. And I went back and forth between this and Civil War, putting this in my top 10. And I chose this because this one works better as a standalone film. It doesn't rely on all these other characters that we know. And it really brought Captain America into the forefront as like the heroes in that franchise. Something that shouldn't work, some guy in a Star-Spangled Banner outfit, kicking butt and taking names and fighting the government. So this is very good. number 6 on my list, awesome movie that defined and shaped the feel of the MCU going forward from that point.
Absolutely.
Moving right into number 5. Ooh, this is a good one. You said Tom Cruise earlier. Mission Impossible Fallout came out recently. It's got 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. Dude, this is nonstop action. This reinvigorated a franchise, just like a lot of these movies on this list. It's number 6, I think, in the Mission Impossible, and they don't seem to be slowing down because it's great. It introduces new characters that are awesome. Henry Cavill was a great villain, as well as the villain from the previous movie. And then it also fleshes out a lot of the characters that we've had in the past movies. And it's all fun and definitely, like, makes me wanna... I can't even talk right now. It was intense. That's all I gotta say. The helicopter scene, the fight scenes were excellently choreographed. Terrific action movie. Brad, what do you got for number 5?
Number 5 is Infinity War. All right? It's important to remember that this list is about action movies. These top 5 are packed with action, and so that did weigh very heavily on my list. This came out in 2018, so it's one of the more recent movies on the list. I saw this with my wife, and then I saw it again with my 2 older kids. I struggled mightily between this and the Avengers and even Endgame, like finding a way to get it in here. But I ultimately went with the one with the most iconic action, and my gosh, the ending. So I mean, the ending is something that like you saw in the theater, never gonna forget, gasps, etc. You know, so Infinity War's got to be in the top 5. It's got an 85 on Rotten Tomatoes. So now it's my opportunity to stay in the MCU for a minute. And my number 4 is Captain America Winter Soldier.
Nice.
Average minds do think alike. You are right. Another appearance from the beautiful and majestic Chris Evans. Never mind. I'm gonna edit that part out. And another one from 2014, actually. This movie has everything in it. I saw this with my friend Al, and I was just like knocked on my butt by this one. It was so awesome. I'm not a huge fan of Captain America: The First Avenger. I like it, but it is what it is. But this movie set me straight as far as what the Captain America movies and character could be. And I believe, just like kind of piggybacking on what Sean said, the Russo brothers took this movie, set the tone for everything that was to come in the MCU. I think the most important film in the MCU, and it's got a 90 on Rotten Tomatoes, like Sean said. So what do you have for your number 4? It's getting wild now.
I've got Inception. It's got an 87%. You had mentioned this movie to me a few days ago that you were rewatching. I was like, is that action? But the more I thought of it, it is Christopher Nolan's take on action, you know? And it's a heist that's only in his way, in a dream, and it's got an all-star cast. Leonardo DiCaprio is awesome. Tom Hardy is great. Ellen Page, all of them. Oh man, it's a great movie. Really, this movie captured my imagination, and I think it solidified Christopher Nolan as one of my favorite directors. Whenever I saw this, I was like, this dude can do no wrong.
Let's do this, man. Spit it out. Let's go.
Number 3, I have Edge of Tomorrow. I must be a sucker for Tom Cruise, because, man, this movie's so great. I own it. I got it right back there. It's got a 90%, like you said earlier. And this one came out of nowhere, just like you said. I was not expecting a lot from this. Tom Cruise, I was like, he's getting a little old, washed up, whatever. But, man, this movie's awesome. It takes the Groundhog Day scenario, brings it to a future war, and you have so much fun in this movie, and great action, great actors. Rest in peace, Bill Paxton. You did great in this movie.
Ooh. Yeah, nice. We've already heard about this movie once tonight. It's Mission Impossible Fallout. This is actually the most recent movie on my list. It's from the summer of 2019, starring another action god, Tom Cruise. His second appearance on my list, by the way. I saw this with my wife, And then with my kids, I watched the entire series at home in time for them to catch it in the theater with me again. This movie's perfect, okay? It's the culmination of almost 2 decades of storytelling. The last 4 movies, the last 4 are all excellent. Any of the last 3 could have made this list on any given day. And it's a 97 on Rotten Tomatoes, as Sean said. So that's where I roll into my number 2. Man, I can't believe this might be controversial, I guess. But number 2 is Logan. Okay? This is from 2017. It's an instant classic. Hugh Jackman returns to his iconic role for maybe one last ride as the Wolverine. This movie is hyper violent, free spirited. Like, they get to do whatever they want with rated R. Epic movie that we definitely earned after enduring some pretty bad incarnations of the X-Men characters over the years. Easily my favorite X-Men movie, and that says a lot considering how awesome X2 and First Class are. One of those almost made my list, but well, only one of them's from that decade. So, it's like staged as a Western, one last ride type plot, and Hugh Jackman gives everything he has to the gut-wrenching finale of the entire, what I would say the entire, probably the X-Men saga. It's got a 93 on Rotten Tomatoes. What you got for
that
number
was
2?
one that man, it would have made my list, but I just considered it more of a drama.
Interesting.
I don't know. But, all right. Number 2, I have Avengers Infinity War. Dude, this movie's so awesome. It's my favorite MCU movie, hands down. It's got an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's the culmination of everything that they had been building with perfect execution. The Russo brothers knocked it out of the park with a shocking ending twist that left a pit in the stomachs of everyone in the world. So I'll leave it at that. And then I guess, man, this time I have to go with number 1 first. How'd you sneak that in there?
It's the same movie. It has to be the same movie. So just go ahead. You get to rip the Band-Aid off of it. Go.
All right, number 1, the best action movie over the past 10 years. Probably my favorite action movie ever. It's Mad Max Fury Road.
Thank you.
Dude. This took a series that I didn't really care about and a plot that shouldn't be so great because it's literally just a chase sequence through an inhabited desert. I mean, like, it's crazy. It's futuristic, but the characters in this are so cool. Tom Hardy as Max in this does a great job. He hardly says anything, and sometimes I think he's the best when he doesn't say anything. But the star of the show, Brad, do you know who the star of the show is? Just if you just had to say anything.
Oh, it's the metal guy. The metal guy.
It's the guitar, the flame metalhead on the top.
Absolutely.
On the front of the truck, leading the charge, leading the cavalry.
Yes. Heck yes.
Dude, this movie's so great. This is what I love about films. Just the look of this movie is
all right, you've said enough. It's my turn. Be
Seeing
quiet.
it in the theater was
Number 1's Mad Max Fury Road. I was kind of hoping that Sean would forget about that movie and I would be able to just destroy him at number 1. It didn't work out that way. Blah, blah, blah. It's Tom Hardy. Loosely a sequel to the previous trilogy. I don't know what to say about this other than just wow. Okay, wow. I saw this with my wife, and I didn't really know what I was even getting myself into. If quantity of action counts for anything on this list, which it does, this movie runs away with the award. Not only is this my favorite action movie of the last 10 years, it easily makes a top 10 action movie all-time list for me, too. Flawless action flick, 97 on Rotten Tomatoes. Now it's time to compare Rotten Tomatoes scores for the all-time crown wearing for action movies. I feel like I lost because Kick-Ass was a 76, but my average Rotten Tomatoes score is 89.6. What do you have?
Brad, you forgot that, Kingsman had a 74.
What? 74?
So I have an average of 87.3. So
Put
I
the
crown
crown.
you the victor.
Put the
of
crown
this
on.
Rotten
Put it
Tomatoes
on.
war. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. That was so cool. I know me and Brad had a great time. Tell us what your top 10 favorite action movies of the past 10 years was. I don't care if it's the best one. It could have a terrible Rotten Tomatoes score. It's about what you think is your favorite. So let us know. Comment down below and make sure you smash that like button. And please let us know also who you thought won this top 10 round. Brad won the Rotten Tomatoes score. Will I get the people's vote? I don't know. Only you can tell us down below. So thank you so much. Remember that you can always watch, but only from a distance.